Earlier this week, I covered the first level of the Ultimate Unsolved Serial Killings and Mass Murders Iceberg chart, and because I'm full of myself and still hungry, here is level 2 of the Ultimate Unsolved Serial Killings and Mass Iceberg chart. This level will be going a little bit further than the first one did, but it will only consist of one level in the video. And if you haven't seen the first video already, I recommend that you go watch it. The link to it will be right up in the corner of the screen now. Now, without further ado, everybody buckle their fuckles, because we're going to talk about killings and other gruesome shit for the next 15 to 20 minutes. Las Cruces Bowling Alley Massacre. It's the morning of February 10th, 1990, and the 34-year-old manager of the Las Cruces Bowling Alley, Stephanie Sinak, was taking care of opening matters in her office when the door opens and the line cook, Ida Holigan, has a .22 caliber pistol trained on her as two men demand that they give her all the money. She, of course, obliges, but this isn't enough for the two men. They order all of the women and the children to get on the fucking ground, and then they open fire, killing several people. They take $4,000 in cash and fucking run. They're never found again. There's never a trace of what happened, and even in spite of massive media publications, there's no leads on the case still. There is, however, a very similar incident that happened at a 1991 in Austin at a yogurt shop, which is of note. West Memphis 3. On the evening of May 5th, 1993, three 8-year-old boys were out playing together. Steve Branch, Michael Moore, and Christopher Byers. That same evening, they were reported missing in West Memphis, Arkansas, and this is the last they were ever heard of. On May 6th, a search commenced after going all throughout the night. Officer Steve Jones spotted one of the boys' black shoes floating in a muddy creek that led to a major drainage canal. A subsequent search of the ditch revealed the bodies of the three boys who had all been hogtied and had lacerations on their cock. Cocks plural, that is. Now here is where it gets juicy. The West Memphis 3 are not these three murdered children. The West Memphis 3 are three men convicted as teenagers in 1994 based off of a bogus and bullshit trial involving faked polygraph results, coercion, and threats from the police. Now here's a fun fact: polygraphs should not be admissible in court because polygraphs as a whole is like having creamy diarrhea on the wall and then trying to tell your future based off of the results. A polygraph test actually works on a plant, and that's because a polygraph doesn't monitor shit. It monitors your heart rate and your brain waves. And plants don't have heart rates, but you can monitor the waves that come off of them. So what is this telling you? Nothing. This isn't telling you anything. It's telling you whether or not the cop's victim is a little nervous, which they then interpret as lying. Because surely, even though these scary people who can fucking kill you on a whim are in a room with you asking you questions about something you don't know shit about, if you're telling the truth, you won't be nervous, right? All cops are bastards. Annecy Shootings. September 5th, 2012. Saad Al-Hili, an Iraqi-born British tourist to France, is hiking along a trail with his wife, her mother-in-law, and his two daughters. Alongside his family, hiking just south of Lake Annecy, is a French cyclist. All of them are gunned down, except for the two children, one of whom sustains injuries, the other of whom is left untouched. There are no leads, and because the fact that there's only children as witnesses, it becomes very, very difficult to track down who did it. So the French police never do. The two children return to Britain as orphans, and the killers are never found. 1991, Austin Yogurt Shop Murders. December 6th, 1991, shortly before midnight. A dispatch officer sees that a "I can't believe it's yogurt shop" is burning to the ground, and quickly calls for backup to investigate it. In the yogurt shop that is half burned, investigators find a pile of 3 bodies. 17-year-old Eliza Thomas, 17-year-old Jennifer Harbison, and Jennifer's 15-year-old sister Sarah were all murdered. 13-year-old Amy Ayers is murdered as well, but she is not found on the burned corpses pile. Because of the way that she was shot and the mechanics of a .22 pistol bullet bouncing around in your head, she is able to survive just long enough to crawl away from the pile before dying. It appears that the perpetrators of this crime tied the 4 of them up, raped them, and then shot them in the back of the head execution style with a .22 caliber pistol and a .380 caliber pistol. They then used accelerants to speed up the burning of the yogurt shop and fled through an unlocked back door. Police do search diligently, but because a lot of the time cops are jokes in cases like this, their suspects land upon 4 teenage boys who is quickly revealed that, hey, they couldn't have done this simply because of the sheer weight of the crime and the fact for a crime like this to be committed, whoever committed it had to have had some sort of experience in committing crimes. These 4 teens are let go, however, 10 years later, 2 of them are tried again in a mock and sham court that finds them guilty and then is quickly overturned because, in case you haven't noticed yet, everything about Texas is a joke. To this day, there still is no signs of who actually did it, and there still is no justice for those who were affected. Atlanta child murders. From 1979 to 1981, there was a spree of up to 28 killings involving primarily children and teenagers, with only 2 adults ever falling victim. The Atlanta child murderers, of course, were very difficult to solve, having continued over the span of 2 years. However, after police imposed curfew, encouraged parents to forbid their children from playing outside, and parents even pulled their children out of schools for the sake of safety, the police and agents working the case began stalking bridges, suspecting that the killer would dump a body in the water next to conceal the evidence. There they found a suspicious Chevrolet station wagon that had Wayne Williams, an Atlanta native who was 23 years old at the time of the last murder. His ass was absolutely caught for the murders of the 2 adults, and it was heavily suspected that he was also killing children, because Wayne worked as a music promoter and was trying to get people ages 11 to 22 to join his music group Gemini that conveniently didn't exist. He also patrolled neighborhoods trying to recruit people for Gemini in predominantly black neighborhoods where a lot of the children had gone missing. So while his ass was caught, he maintained his innocence from the child murderers, and they conveniently stopped after he was placed in jail. The I-70 Killer. On April 8, 1992, 26-year-old manager of Payless Shoe Source Robin Fuldauer is working alone in Indianapolis. She was alone in the store when a man comes in, or at least police believe it was a man. This man shoots her in the back of the head somewhere between 1:30 to 2 p.m., takes a few $100s out of the till, and vanishes without a trace. A situation like this is repeated at least 6 different times. Someone comes in, someone shoots a woman with brunette hair in the back of the head, takes a few $100s from the small specialty store that woman unfortunately worked in, and leaves. The only man killed was a man with brunette hair that was small and easily mistaken for a woman. There is no leads, there is very, very few witnesses, and there's only a slight connection to 2 other murders in Texas, meaning that nobody ever catches the I-70 Killer. The I-70 Killer is dubbed this because all of the stores that the I-70 Killer murdered in We're just off of the Interstate 70 way. West Mesa Bone Collector. On February 2nd, 2009, a woman was walking her dog on Albuquerque's West Mesa. On the walk, she found a human bone. Understandably, she went to the police with this horrifying discovery, and the police searched the area, finding the bodies of 11 women, children, and even a fetus. All of them were female, except for the fetus, because it was too early to tell what that thing was. And all of them were between 15 and 32 years of age, were Hispanic, and were involved with drugs and sex work. Despite subsequent investigations, the police couldn't find any leads or any reasonable suspects. However, one Lorenzo Montoya lived less than 3 miles from the burial site, and there were dirt trails leading from his trailer to the site of the bodies. There was never enough evidence to prosecute him, and in 2009, while attempting to strangle a teenage girl to death, he was shot dead by her boyfriend. The murders stopped after his passing. Assassination of Juvenal Habariyama and Cyprian Netaryamira. On the evening of April 6, 1994, an aircraft carrying the Rwandan President Juvenal Habariyama and Burundian President Cyprian Netaryamira, both Hutu, was shot down with surface-to-air missiles as it prepared to land in Kigali, Rwanda. The perpetrator of this is never caught, and with the two presidents dead and an increasing inflamed racial tension in Rwanda, this kicks off the Rwandan genocide, in which the Hutus tried to execute and kill all of the Tutsis, a genocide swept under the rug by the UN, as most modern genocides have been, that left thousands dead and even more with nothing. Lake Bodom murders. On Saturday, June 4th, 1960, Myla Bjorklund, Anja Maki, Seppo Boisman, and Nils Wilhelm Gustafsson decided to camp alongside the shore of Lake Bodom. Sometime in the night of June 4th or the early morning of June 5th, 3 of them would be murdered, and 1 of them would sustain severe injuries. At about 6 a.m. the next morning, a group of boys who was birdwatching claimed to see a tall blonde man walking away from the collapsed tent. At 11, a local carpenter found the bodies and the injured Nils, and at noon the police showed up. And from there, the case went cold. There wasn't much evidence. And then, in 2004, almost 44 years after the event, Gustafsson, not a suspect in the case as far as the public knew, was arrested. In early 2005, the Finnish National Bureau of Investigation declared the case was solved based off of new forensic analysis. Based on interpretation of bloodstains, Gustafsson had been drunk and excluded from the tent when he attacked the other boy, getting his jaw broken in a fight, which escalated in him killing all 3 of them. However, this is not only a reach in an extreme stretch, but one that couldn't be proven in the Finnish courts, which meant that Gustafsson, despite supposedly having bragged about his guilt years prior, got off scot-free, and that it was unlikely that he had ever actually done it to begin with. And to this day, the Lake Bodom murders remain unsolved. The Freeway Phantom. From 1971 to 1972, in the Washington, D.C. area and surrounding states, and of course it's the Washington, D.C. area because you'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy, a serial killer killed 6 different people along the freeway, hence giving this killer the name Freeway Phantom. The Freeway Phantom was never identified, and the case remains cold to this day. Now, of course, because of the long span of time between killings, it's unlikely that the Freeway Phantom will ever be found, and we can only hope that the victims are at peace now. Highway of Tears. Trans-Canada Highway 16 has beautiful imagery surrounding it, as you see here on screen. However, it has a much darker association and a horrific nickname with good reason. The Highway of Tears is what this place is called, and it's called that because over 80 Indigenous women have been found brutally murdered and dumped there. This has been ongoing since 1970, and there are 80 plus confirmed victims. Now, of course, there have been many investigations in relation to Highway 16, and that has dug up 3 separate serial killers with the same motive and same MO of people that they kill, and the same dumping grounds. These 3 serial killers being Brian Peter Arp, Edward Dennis Isaac, and Cody Legbokoff. Well, lads, lasses, and la-NBs, that is level 2 of the ultimate serial killings and spree killers and all other sorts of true crime shit, Iceberg. If you're still here, thank you so much for watching all the way. And if you're new around here, do consider subscribing. It's completely free and it helps me pursue my dreams. As I record this bit right now, I'm only 19 subscribers away from the holy funny Reddit number 420. So getting there would really be appreciated. Overall, again, thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful time, and memento mori.